Understanding near-death experiences, a universal journey across cultures. They say near-death experiences are like cracks in the universe, glimpses behind a curtain no one usually gets to pull back. Across the globe, people who have stared death in the face talk about the same strange things. Some see blinding light, swirling and pulling them in, like the ocean's wildest current. Others hear voices, soft whispers, or booming commands without words. People describe meeting figures they call angels, ancestors, or even something bigger, something beyond names. Here's the wild part. These stories pop up everywhere, from tiny villages in South America to the heart of Tokyo, from icy Siberia to bustling New York. Different languages, different religions, same puzzling visions. Some say time melts away, seconds stretch into forever. Suddenly, they're walking through endless fields, or floating over their own bodies like a ghost. Others feel a rush of peace so deep it shakes them up. Pure calm just before they snap back to panic and pain. And the secrets they receive? Oh, those make you stop breathing for a moment. Whispered truths about why we're here, what happens when we die, what really keeps the world turning. Some swear they glimpsed their entire family tree, folding back hundreds of years in a flash. Others saw warnings, clear as day, about choices they must make once back in life. These aren't just dreams. They're electric, confusing, sometimes terrifying, sometimes comforting. Some come back changed forever. Others wonder if it was just their brain short-circuiting under stress. This wide, extraordinary mystery pulls at philosophers and scientists alike. Could all these stories be the same universal language, one soul writing in many dialects, or something stranger, something impossible to explain? What if death isn't the end, but a passage? What if those moments bridge something no one has dared to say out loud? I bet you're hooked already. But hold on a second. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any of the exclusive content coming up. And while you're at it, drop a powerful like. That really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, from which city are you watching? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. I bet you're hooked already. But hold on a second. The moment paused, and the world around felt heavy. Eager anticipation hung in the air, like a thick fog. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the silence. A window shattered, glass sparkling like stars scattering in a dark sky. Everyone turned, wide-eyed. The commotion echoed. Panicked whispers slid through the crowd. Uncertainty festering in the pit of stomachs. Then, as if time flickered, a figure darted into the room. It was Clara, a face we thought we knew. Her eyes, usually bright with mischief, now looked haunted, a deep shadow lurking behind them. She stumbled forward, breathless, chest heaving as if she'd sprinted from another world. But it wasn't just fear that twisted her features. It was something deeper, something that begged questions. "Clara?" someone shouted, voice shaky with concern. The rest held their breath. What was happening? Why did she look like she'd seen the end of the world? And then it happened. She pulled a necklace from her pocket, a twisted silver chain with a locket that gleamed ominously in the dim light. Our hearts stopped. "Stop!" she cried, voice breaking. "You need to listen." Everyone leaned in. What was so urgent? I saw something during my experience. It wasn't just light or peace, it was... A hush descended. Every word felt electric, hanging in the air. It was both thrilling and terrifying. There were faces. I could see everyone I ever loved, but there was also someone else, someone dark. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Faces turned to each other, eyes wide. "What do you mean, dark?" someone asked, their voice barely a whisper. Clara swallowed hard, as if the truth weighed down on her like a heavy coat. It was a figure, cloaked in shadows. He knew me, knew everything. He told me things. What kind of things? The crowd pressed in closer. The air thick with curiosity and apprehension. He said death isn't the end like we think. It's a choice. Every single soul has a right to decide whether to cross over or not. And there are consequences if you don't. A gasp spread like wildfire. Backs straightened, young and old alike recoiling from the implications. Clara's eyes widened with urgency, the truth burning in her gaze. But there's more. He said some choices lead to torment, and others need sacrifices, silence. The kind that thrummed in your ears and sank heavy in your chest. We felt the collective weight of her words. Relationships flickered like candle flames. Shadows dancing across familiar faces. Friends turned strangers with just a few sentences. Who was really seeing and who was blind? "What happened next?" someone urged. "I don't know. I panicked. I woke up. But he..." Clara's voice wavered, each syllable thick with fear. "He warned me. He's coming for you. For all of us. We can't tell anyone. It could shatter everything." As her voice broke, a tiny piece of light in her eyes dimmed, transforming the urgency into something darker, richer with dread. The storm of emotions twisted, tangled in everyone's hearts. Had we been blind to something bigger than ourselves all along? Was every near-death experience simply a doorway? And now, standing at the threshold of something terrifying, we questioned, what did that dark figure mean for us? The room flooded with noise, confusion, fear, as Clara stood trembling, the locket dangling like a ticking time bomb. What was going to happen next? What choices lay before us? We needed answers, but the answers felt just out of reach, cloaked in shadows. The room quaked with uncertainty. Clara's trembling hands held the locket, sparks of fear crackling in the air. Everyone leaned in closer, breaths held tight. The weight of her revelation hung like a dark cloud, suffocating and thick. "What did you see, Clara?" Someone whispered, urging her to go on. "He knew me," she breathed, her voice strained. "He knows all of us, and he's not just a shadow. It's like he's part of the darkness, but also part of the light. Like he's everything and nothing." Suddenly, outside a loud thud echoed like a thunderclap. The lights flickered overhead, dimming, then bursting back to life. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Just as that heartbeat of fear settled, the giant oak door flew open. In stormed a figure, wrapped in a long black coat, rain-soaked and wild-eyed. It was Daniel, Clara's estranged father. His presence changed everything. The room fell into a hush, shock gripping each face. "Clara!" he shouted, voice a jagged wire, slicing through the tension. "You need to come with me, now." People shifted uneasily, casting glances. What was happening? Why was Daniel here? He hadn't been in Clara's life for years. His sudden return was a jolt, pulling at old wounds nobody had closed. "Stay back," Clara cried, her heart racing. "You shouldn't be here. You have to listen to me." But Daniel stepped closer, panic straining his features. "They're onto you, Clara. You have to trust me. They've already started moving. The ones who see." Clara's eyes widened, the urgency in his tone gripping her stomach. "The ones who see? What does that even mean?" "Clara," he seemed to beg, "it's not just the dark figure. It's at a level you can't even imagine. We need to go. Now." Uncertainty rocked the room. The crowd exchanged worried looks. It felt like the walls were closing in on them. The whispers picked up again. Uncertainty, thick as fog. "Is he serious?" someone murmured, heart pounding in their throat. "Should we trust him?" "We can't just let him take her," another voice chimed, sharp and defensive. "Clara," Daniel said, his voice dropping to a whisper as he reached out. "I made mistakes, but they're coming for the ones who glimpse beyond. And you? What do you know?" Clara shot back, eyes blazing with anger. "You left me. You think I'm going to believe anything you say?" He cringed, like her words were knives. "Your life is in danger. Don't you understand? It's not the death you should fear. It's the life that waits on the other side of it." Before anyone could interject, a low rumble filled the air. The lights flickered again, this time growing dimmer. A figure appeared in the doorway, a silhouette eclipsed by darkness, towering and menacing. Clara froze, fear coursing through her veins as the crowd gasped in unison. The dark figure stepped forward, the shadows swirling around it as if alive. "You can't hide, Clara," it intoned, voice echoing like a thunderclap. "You've made your choice. The time is now." Clara's heart raced, pounding like a war drum. Daniel turned to her, panic flashing in his eyes. "Clara, go! Grab the others!" But suddenly, the room shook, and the floor beneath them cracked like fragile ice. Everyone staggered, screams bursting, fear swallowing the room whole. In the chaos, Clara felt something inside her shift. It was a flicker, more than just fear. It was determination. "Wait! No!" she cried, reaching out to the advancing figure. "What are you?" It froze, eyes piercing, the answer lingering in the air, like an unspoken truth. And as the colors around them began to swirl, breaking into a kaleidoscope of darkness and light, Clara realized the truth she feared the most was just within reach. Was Daniel truly there to save her, or was he part of the trap? Questions swirled, just like the shadows, thick, growing darker with each desperate heartbeat. The room spun, and everything they thought they knew about life, death, and choosing sides shattered, leaving one question lingering in the air. What choice would Clara make? Clara froze, fear coursing through her veins as the shadowy figure loomed closer. The air thickened, every heartbeat echoing like a drum in her ears. Daniel's panic became palpable, urging her to act, to run, and yet she felt rooted to the spot. What was this darkness that seemed to seep into her very soul? "Clara, go!" Daniel's voice sliced through the chaos, gripping her with desperation. But before she could respond, a rush of pressure swept through the crowd. The walls felt like they were closing in. Even the air was heavy with anticipation. Then she heard it, a voice, chilling and omnipresent. "You've been chosen, Clara," it boomed, reverberating through the room like thunder. "Your journey has only just begun." But just as quickly, the figure reached out, a skeletal hand forming from the shadows. Clara's breath quickened as she tried to comprehend what was happening. Daniel's presence became a blur, but the darkness seemed to swallow her whole, and before she knew it, she was falling. Time warped. Everything flashed like a broken film reel. Faces blurred. Her friends, her childhood, the loving embrace of her mother. And then the shadows receded just long enough for Clara to see something bright, something hopeful. And then, light flashed and the room snapped back into focus. Clara gasped. Sitting upright, the crowd surrounding her like anxious waves. But it wasn't just Daniel's face she saw. Her mother stood there too, alive and vibrant, smiling at Clara with warmth. Her heart twisted. "Mom," Clara whispered, disbelief flooding her voice. "Clara, you must listen," her mother urged, her tone urgent, yet soothing. "You have to break the cycle. You are in danger. He's not just a dark figure. He's the keeper of choices." Clara's mind raced. "Is this a hallucination?" "You died. I watched you. I grieved for you." Tears welled in her mother's eyes, a mix of sorrow and pride. "I never left you, Clara. I was trapped in between. You need to escape this fate." Confusion gripped Clara's heart, tightening like a vice. "But what does that mean? What is happening?" Before her mother could answer, the shadows flickered again, the darkness swirling like a storm inside the room. The menacing figure remained, matching her mother's intensity with cold indifference. "The choice is not yours to make, Clara," it sneered. And for the first time, something shifted in the air, a ripple of power, a fracture in reality. And Clara felt it, the ground beneath her shaking, her soul thrumming with energy. "It's all a lie," she shouted, suddenly aware of the true weight of her words. "You're not my darkness. You're her past." A collective gasp echoed in the room. There was a shift, barely perceptible, but enough to alter the balance. The crowd fell silent, their eyes darting between Clara and the dark figure. Clara's heart raced with desperation. "Mom, why didn't you tell me?" She felt hurt, betrayal bubbling beneath every syllable. "You let me think you were gone." "No, Clara, I was trying to protect you," her mother cried, desperation etching lines into her face. "But now it's the moment of truth. You might have to become someone you never wanted." The air crackled as the shadow swirled and lunged forward. But Clara's anger flared. "What does that mean? Is it about sacrifice?" "Yes," her mother's voice trembled. "You'll have to reclaim your power, to break free of the darkness. But the shadows, not just one, but many, coiled and surged toward Clara. An unexpected force struck her, a warmth she hadn't felt in ages. It was an ember igniting within her, a spark of resilience. She held fast against the encroaching gloom, realizing the truth. Everything she thought she knew was constructed on the frail promises of darkness. Then, the room shattered like glass under pressure. Screams erupted, faces turned ghostly pale. Clara's mother and the figure were locked in a silent battle, eyes blazing with unspoken truths. Then Clara understood. The real choice lay in her hands, not the figure's. But was she ready to wield such strength? As her heart pounded like a war drum, she shouted, "What will happen if I refuse?" Silence wrapped around them all, thick and suffocating. Every eye trained on her, the air tense with anticipation. The dark figure paused, something flickering in its depths, almost human. And as that mere hint of vulnerability sparked in the gloom, the question loomed larger than ever. Who truly held the power in this world of shadows? Who was Clara destined to become? Clara froze, fear coursing through her veins as the shadowy figure loomed closer. The air thickened, every heartbeat echoing like a drum in her ears. Daniel's panic became palpable, urging her to act, to run, and yet she felt rooted to the spot. What was this darkness that seemed to seep into her very soul? "Clara, go!" Daniel's voice sliced through the chaos, gripping her with desperation. But before she could respond, a rush of pressure swept through the crowd. The walls felt like they were closing in. Even the air was heavy with anticipation. Then she heard it, a voice, chilling and omnipresent. "You've been chosen, Clara," it boomed, reverberating through the room like thunder. "Your journey has only just begun." But just as quickly, the figure reached out, a skeletal hand forming from the shadows. Clara's breath quickened as she tried to comprehend what was happening. Daniel's presence became a blur, but the darkness seemed to swallow her whole. And before she knew it, she was falling. Time warped. Everything flashed like a broken film reel. Faces blurred, her friends, her childhood, the loving embrace of her mother. And then the shadows receded, just long enough for Clara to see something bright, something hopeful. And then light flashed, and the room snapped back into focus. Clara gasped, sitting upright, the crowd surrounding her like anxious waves. But it wasn't just Daniel's face she saw. Her mother stood there too, alive and vibrant, smiling at Clara with warmth. Her heart twisted. "Mom," Clara whispered, disbelief flooding her voice. "Clara, you must listen," her mother urged, her tone urgent yet soothing. "You have to break the cycle. You are in danger. He's not just a dark figure. He's the keeper of choices." Clara's mind raced. Was this a hallucination? "You died. I watched you. I grieved for you." Tears welled in her mother's eyes, a mix of sorrow and pride. "I never left you, Clara. I was trapped, in between. You need to escape this fate." Confusion gripped Clara's heart, tightening like a vice. "But what does that mean? What is happening?" Before her mother could answer, the shadows flickered again, the darkness swirling like a storm inside the room. The menacing figure remained, matching her mother's intensity. With cold indifference. "The choice is not yours to make, Clara," it sneered, and for the first time, something shifted in the air. A ripple of power, a fracture in reality. And Clara felt it, the ground beneath her shaking, her soul thrumming with energy. "It's all a lie," she shouted, suddenly aware of the true weight of her words. "You're not my darkness, you're her past." A collective gasp echoed in the room. There was a shift, barely perceptible, but enough to alter the balance. The crowd fell silent, their eyes darting between Clara and the dark figure. Clara's heart raced with desperation. "Mom, why didn't you tell me?" She felt hurt, betrayal bubbling beneath every syllable. "You let me think you were gone." "No, Clara, I was trying to protect you," her mother cried, desperation etching lines into her face. "But now it's the moment of truth. You might have to become someone you never wanted." The air crackled as the shadow swirled and lunged forward. But Clara's anger flared. "What does that mean? Is it about sacrifice?" "Yes," her mother's voice trembled. "You'll have to reclaim your power, to break free of the darkness." But the shadows, not just one, but many, coiled and surged toward Clara. An unexpected force struck her, a warmth she hadn't felt in ages. It was an ember igniting within her, a spark of resilience. She held fast against the encroaching gloom, realizing the truth. Everything she thought she knew was constructed on the frail promises of darkness. Then the room shattered like glass under pressure. Screams erupted. Faces turned ghostly pale. Clara's mother and the figure were locked in a silent battle, eyes blazing with unspoken truths. Then Clara understood. The real choice lay in her hands, not the figure's. But was she ready to wield such strength? As her heart pounded like a war drum, she shouted, "What will happen if I refuse?" Silence wrapped around them all, thick and suffocating. Every eye trained on her, the air tense with anticipation. The dark figure paused, something flickering in its depths, almost human. Suddenly, a piercing shriek shattered the stillness. "Clara, no!" A voice like daggers, slicing through the air. It was Daniel, breathing heavily, eyes wide with terror. "You can't do this!" His arms shot out, and he lunged forward. But before anyone could react, the dark figure shot out a hand, and Daniel froze mid-motion. The shadows engulfed him in an instant, wrapping around him like a snake, pulling him into the darkness. "No!" Clara screamed, watching in horror as Daniel's figure shrank, swallowed whole. The room tilted, the walls creaking under the weight of it all. "Daniel!" Panicked whispers erupted from the crowd. Clara's heart raced. What had just happened? She turned desperately to her mother, but her expression shifted from horror to certainty. "You've done it now, Clara. You have to make your choice before it's too late." The realization hit with crushing force. Clara had not only lost Daniel, but had also unwittingly set off a chain reaction, something far worse. The dark figure turned its attention back to her, its eyes glowing brighter, more defined. "You cannot delay. You must choose," it rumbled, voice echoing as if the walls themselves were shouting with it. Clara stood frozen, heart pounding. A choice loomed before her, heavy with consequence. She glanced at her mother, a desperate plea hanging in the air. But what did she truly know about this choice? Was she ready? And what if the dark figure had only begun to reveal its true purpose? Time paused, hearts raced, and the glimmer of hope fizzled into uncertainty. As the air thickened, Clara felt the weight of a million eyes on her, shadows coiling tighter, demanding. What choice would she make? Clara stood at the edge of a chasm, heart racing as the shadows thickened around her. The dark figure towered, and the weight of its gaze felt like chains pulling her down. Daniel's warning echoed in her ears, mingling with her mother's urgency. The choice loomed heavy in the air. "Choose now, Clara," the figure urged, its voice a deep rumble that shook her core. Fear twisted in her stomach, but in that moment, a flicker of resolve sparked within her. She couldn't let this darkness define her destiny. But before she could decide, a sharp stab of pain shot through her head, blinding her with white light. "Clara!" her mother cried, arms outstretched, but the light enveloped Clara, pulling her farther away from the room, away from reality. Her surroundings blurred, swirling in a torrent of colors and sounds. Something crashed. Pieces of her world shattered. Images flashed, faces she knew, places she loved, until they all blurred into one overwhelming collage. Suddenly, Clara stumbled back into focus. She was standing at a familiar crossroads, the one she had visited time and again in her dreams. This time, however, an unexpected presence stood beside her, shadowy and indistinct. "Who are you?" she gasped, stepping back in instinctual fear. "It's me, Clara." The voice was low yet familiar. It echoed with warmth, yet sent shivers down her spine. She squinted against the darkness, struggling to recognize the figure. The shadow shifted, and then it flickered to life. Her father stood there, eyes bright and fierce, but something was off. "I've been waiting. You have to listen." "Dad?" The words slipped from her lips, confusion flooding her mind. But it wasn't just confusion. It was disbelief, and deep down, she felt betrayal rising. "How can you be here? You left." His gaze softened, but the shadows clung to him like a cloak. "You have to understand, I wasn't just gone. I was watching, protecting you. Everything you faced leads to this moment." Clara's heart sank. "Protecting me? Do you have any idea I've been through?" She felt fury boiling inside her. "You think this is easy? I've fought for so long. And now," her voice trembled, "now you show up?" "I had to stay in the background. It was the only way," he replied, voice strained. "Your journey was destined to bring you here. You and your mother, this darkness, it's a choice you need to confront. But not all choices are what they seem." "What do you mean?" The knot in her chest tightened, uncertainty gnawing at her thoughts. "This figure, it's not the enemy you think." He hesitated, shadows swirling around him. "It's a reflection, a part of you." Clara staggered backward, the revelation sinking in like an anchor. "No, that can't be true." "Look deeper, Clara. You must face what you fear inside you." His face twisted in anguish. "This darkness thrives on your wounds, your anger, your pain." But as he spoke, the room trembled, the air thickening with dread. The ground cracked beneath their feet, and Clara felt her grip on reality slipping away. She looked back at her father, confusion mingling with panic. "This isn't my fault. I didn't choose this." Suddenly, the shadowy figure lunged forward, shattering the illusion. The room exploded into chaos, surrounding them with noise and confusion. Clara's heart raced as she looked around. The figure wasn't just dark, it was chaotic, echoes of her own fears and insecurities boiling to the surface. "Don't be afraid," her father shouted over the din, desperation etched across his face. "Accept it, you must." But the shadows deepened, swirling violently, and in that storm of upheaval, a stunning truth hit her like a lightning bolt. This darkness, this haunting presence, it wasn't just about fear. It was her past, her insecurities, everything she had fought against, all wrapped together, whispering in her ear. "Clara!" Her mother's voice pierced through the noise, pulling her back to reality. "You are stronger than this." The swirling shadows seemed to pause, waiting for her reaction. Clara's breath hitched. Could she really confront this? Would her acceptance of it shatter everything she thought she knew? "Who do you choose to be?" That chilling voice echoed once more, transforming the storm around her into a haunting symphony. The answer could change everything, and that was when it hit her, hard and fast, like the world turned upside down. The figure, her fears, her family, all tangled in a web of choices she had never fully understood. What if Daniel and her father weren't just strangers? What if they were all reflections of her own choices, lines woven into the fabric of her identity? In that split second, Clara felt her resolve shift, expanding, filling every crevice of her being. With the shadows inching closer, she realized, with a wrenching sense of clarity, this was about more than just her past. It was a chance to forge a new future. "Enough!" she screamed, her voice a force against the gathering storm. "I am not afraid of you." The shadows recoiled, the figure faltering, uncertainty creeping into its dark form. Clara stood taller, heart racing. "I choose to confront my fears, not run from them." And in that moment, the twisted darkness morphed. The entire room pulsated, and Clara felt a burst of warmth radiate from her core, illuminating everything. What light lay ahead? Had she truly made the right choice? Or was this just the beginning of an even darker journey? Clara stood taller, her heart racing. "I choose to confront my fears, not run from them." The shadows hesitated, swirling around her. For a moment, it felt like hope flickered in the chaos, like a candle against the dark. But then something shifted. The figure faltered, its shape twisting and morphing. Suddenly, it split in two, revealing not just one face of darkness, but two. Clara's breath caught in her throat. From the divide emerged another figure, stepping into the fray with an aura that cracked the shadows. It was Daniel, but he looked different. Less frantic, more determined. There was a fierce fire in his eyes, unlike anything Clara had seen before. "Daniel?" she breathed, confusion mixing with hope. But the answer lay in the air. His presence sparked something deep inside her, an energy she couldn't ignore. "I'm not the one you think I am," Daniel said, voice steady and clear. "I'm what you made me. I am your fear of abandonment, and I am also everything you can't see yet. You need to understand." Clara's pulse raced, fear gripping her again. What do you mean? What's happening? The dark figure laughed, a sound like shattering glass. You see, Clara? You chose to confront, but you forgot the most important part. You didn't realize what else was at stake. It turned to Daniel, its shadowy form lurching. You think you can protect her? You are the very thing she fears. Clara's heart dropped. The truth stung like a sharp thorn. Daniel wasn't just the one to save her. He was part of the darkness she had been fighting. An echo of her vulnerabilities right there in the room. "No," she shouted, shaking her head, trying to fend off the realization. "You can't be." But in that moment, everything she thought she knew began to shatter. "Can't you see?" Daniel's voice broke through, more pained than accusing. "Your denial has brought me here. Your fear keeps me alive." Clara's mind spun, a storm of emotions crashing against her. "No, this can't be real." She stepped back, feeling the ground waver beneath her. Behind her, the crowd gasped, faces twisting in shock. Fear and disbelief mingled like smoke. "That's right, Clara. Fear keeps us tethered. I exist because you let me, because you refuse to face what hurt you." The dark figure coiled closer, its laugh vibrating through her bones. "You're the one who has the power to make me vanish." Tears blurred Clara's vision. "But how? How can I—" Suddenly, Daniel staggered back, clutching his head as if it were going to split apart. "Because, Clara!" His voice broke like thunder, and the very air around them felt charged. "You're not just choosing to confront the darkness. You're making the ultimate choice to either let go or hold on." The ground heaved beneath them as Clara felt something shatter inside her, unleashing raw energy. "This isn't my fight alone," she yelled. Fear turned to defiance, and she lifted her chin. The shadows twisted, shrieking and howling. It felt like the world was breaking apart. "You don't control my fate," she asserted, her voice echoing with newfound strength. But before she could fully grasp her power, Daniel's transformation was abrupt. The shadow that had formed around him faded, revealing something startling: his true self. Clara's heart raced as she realized he looked like her. Surely it was just as surreal, yet undeniably familiar. "Daniel," she was lost now, swirling in confusion. Are you me?" "Not just you," he replied, a smile ghosting over his features, a likeness of her smile. "I am the part of you that's been waiting to be awakened. You've hidden from your own strength, Clara. It's time to stop running." The dark figure trembled, shock rippling through its form. "No, she cannot—" But Clara's grip on her own reality tightened. "I can. I choose to embrace every part of me. The light, the dark, everything." The shadows screamed, collapsing in on themselves, the echoes reverberating. And in that chaos, she felt her mother's presence surge beside her, glistening like a beacon of love and light. "Take your power, Clara," her mother urged. "You can change the narrative." With each heartbeat, the dark figure shrunk, claws retracting into mist. Clara could feel it, the truth unspooling like a thread. But before she could grasp it fully, a blinding light enveloped the room, pushing everything into oblivion. And then silence. Clara stood there, breathless, surrounded by an empty void. Where had everyone gone? Had she really made a choice? Or had she stepped out into the unknown? The darkness no longer loomed, but neither did the figures who had once surrounded her. Heart pounding, Clara looked around, uncertainty biting at her. What was left of her choice? What had she just unleashed? One question lingered. Had she truly awakened her power, or had she just shattered the illusion and lost sight of herself? Clara stood still, the weight of her choice hanging heavy in the air. Shadows danced around her, but in the quiet, there was a flicker of light swirling within. Her heart raced, uncertainty mingling with a tinge of hope. But in that stillness, she felt a sudden jolt, like a spark shooting through the darkness. Then came the whisper, a voice she recognized. Clara. It sliced through the silence, pulling her attention. Her breath hitched. The room trembled as the voice grew louder, more urgent. Clara, you must know the truth. And just like that, everything shifted. The shadows quivered, retreating as if afraid of the voice. Clara squinted against the light, and out stepped a figure, cloaked in a blinding glow. Her heart lurched. It was her mother. But she looked different. Eyes bright, skin glowing with an ethereal light. "Mom?" Clara gasped, disbelief rippling through her. "Is it really you?" "Listen, you're on the brink." Her mother's voice resonated like a soft bell, grounding Clara even in the chaos. "You have to understand the truth about your father." "What are you talking about?" Confusion colored Clara's thoughts. "What truth?" Before her mother could answer, the dark figure lunged forward, striking at Clara. But instead of fear, she felt an unexpected surge. She faced the shadow, determination coursing through every vein. "I am not afraid of you." But the darkness paused, hesitating as if struck by her words. "Clara," her mother pressed, "your father, he's not who you think he is. He's the one who trapped me." The shock hit Clara like a punch. "What? But he's my father. You can't—" "Yes, he's your father, but he used his power to entrap me in a cycle of darkness. He has manipulated everything." Her mother's gaze bore into Clara, urgency spilling from her lips. "To control you." The world around Clara began to swirl as memories flooded. Emotion. He played a game with your life, pulling strings in the darkness so he could harness your power. With those words, it felt like Clara's entire world began to shatter. Every moment spent believing in her father, every hug, every word of encouragement, padlocked in a lie. "This can't be real." Her voice trembled. A lump formed in her throat. The dark figure twisted in rage. "This is not your reality to rewrite," it thundered, reaching out, its shadowy hand grasping at the air. Then in an instant, it all transformed. The space around Clara warped, a portal ripping open in an explosion of light and dark. And before she could comprehend, Clara found herself tumbling through, past images of her childhood, familial laughter, the warmth of love she had clung to. Suddenly it all made sense, the echoes of joy mixed with shadows of despair. Memories turned into glimpses. Clara could see her father in moments of darkness and light, battling the choices he had made. But just then, an image flickered, sharp and unforgiving. Her father's face contorted in malevolence, eyes dark and bottomless. "You think you can escape?" he sneered. "You were never meant to succeed." Clara's heart dropped. Everything she had thought, all she had fought for, was built on a foundation of deceit. The swirl of images halted, and she found herself back in the room, the shadows pulsing violently. The figure faced her, no longer a mere threat. It was a reminder of the truth her father had hidden. Glancing at her mother, Clara felt the weight of the revelation coil tight in her chest. "What do I do? How can I break free?" But her mother's face faded in and out, shadows pressing around them as if to drown the light. "You have to harness the power he left behind. Only by embracing every piece of yourself can you change the course." Just as Clara began to grasp it all, a thunderous noise erupted, a crack that split the air, halting everything. Daniel's voice echoed through the chaos, frantic and afraid. "Clara!" Tighter. She made her choice. "I am not your pawn," she shouted, voice strong and clear. And then a blinding flash erupted, turning everything white. In that split second, everything froze. Clara held her breath, and for a heartbeat, she sensed the universe hanging in the balance. What had she unleashed? What else lay hidden behind her father's wicked facade? As the light began to dim around her, one haunting question echoed in the silence. Would she rise as the hero, or would she fall victim to the very darkness she sought to destroy? Clara stood there, breathless, surrounded by blinding light, waiting. For what felt like an eternity, time stood still. The air crackled with the weight of everything she'd just learned. Everything she'd fought against. But that fleeting moment of triumph shattered as she felt something shift beneath her feet. The ground trembled violently, and suddenly the soft glow of her mother faded into shadow. "Mom, no!" Clara cried, panic gripping her throat. A dark wave rippled across the room, swallowing light like a hungry beast. "Clara!" A voice thundered through the chaos. It was the dark figure, its presence looming and ominous. "You think you've won? You haven't seen the truth." Then, amidst the swirling shadows, a piercing shriek erupted. Every hair on Clara's body stood on end. The chaos grew, drowning out everything. She could barely breathe, her heart racing. "What truth?" she shouted, desperation clawing at her. That's when it happened. A sudden crack, like thunder, ruptured the space. A blinding flash pierced through the dark. In that moment, a figure stumbled into view. Clara's breath caught. It was her mother. But behind her was someone else, an older version of her, but twisted in features and expression. "Clara," the figure rasped, voice scratching against the air. "You're not safe. They're all connected." "What are you talking about?" Clara felt the ground buck beneath her. Shadows swirled. Fear clamped down hard. "Everything you know, it's a lie." Her mother stepped forward, eyes wide with urgency. "I tried to shield you, but they're coming, and they want you." "What do you mean?" Clara whimpered, confusion mixing with rising anger. "Coming for me? Who?" Then the room erupted with chaos. The dark figure lunged, its shadows reaching out like grasping hands. "The truth is what binds us," it shrieked, as if the shadows themselves conspired against her. Suddenly, the floor split open, a gaping maw of darkness drawing closer. Clara felt the abyss swallow her entire existence, memories flashing before her like fading stars. But through it all, one thing shone brightly, an overwhelming sense of betrayal. Why were they all connected? "Let go, Clara," Her mother's voice surged through the noise, a lifeline woven within the turmoil. "Face it, you're the key." "Mom, I can't, I'm scared." Tears streamed down Clara's cheeks as the ground turned to quicksand beneath her. But in that moment of despair, like a flicker of flame within a storm, Clara remembered Daniel's words. All her struggles had led to this, and she could not let fear chain her down any longer. "I am the key," she screamed, her heart pounding louder, stronger. No more running. With newfound strength surging through her, Clara plunged into the darkness, determined to seize whatever awaited her on the other side. But then another figure emerged, stepping into the light, a figure that felt all too familiar. "Clara, it's me. It's—" Panic surged, freezing her in place. Her breath caught in her throat as the truth unfolded before her. Her father. "Dad?" Her heart sank. "You?" His eyes were wild, spinning with life and fear. "I'm not what you think I am. You have to believe me." Clara felt everything unraveling. Betrayal stung her like venom. "You lied. You allowed this. Allowed them to manipulate me." He shook his head, desperation pushing through. "No, Clara. I was trying to protect you. The truth will destroy you." The dark figure seized the moment, voice booming like thunder, drowning out her thoughts. In that heartbeat, everything shifted. The shadows coalesced and twisted around Clara's father, intertwining like a noose. "You cannot save her," it hissed, voice dripping with malice. "She is bound to the cycle of darkness, just like you." Every light flickered. Silence hung heavy, an unbearable pause that felt like eternity. What was his role? What truth had he hidden all this time? The chilling notion gripped Clara's heart like an iron. Vice. Was her father truly here to save her? Or was he the reason for the chaos? In an instant, everything shattered. Clara's heart raced in a whirlwind of shock, her mind screaming for clarity. Who could she trust? What choice would she make in this relentless tide of uncertainty? As the shadows danced closer, she stood on a precipice. Her choices held the key, but which path would lead her to light, and which would plunge them all into deeper darkness? Clara's heart raced, pumping like a drum echoing through the thick air. She was surrounded by chaos. The ground seemed to tremble with every word spoken, every breath taken. But one thought pierced through the noise, sharp and clear. She had the power to change everything. "Enough," she declared, her voice strong. "I will face my truth." The room shook, shadows recoiling as if struck. Clara stood firm, determined not just to confront her fears, but to embrace them. "You're not a part of me anymore," she shouted, facing the dark figure with fire in her eyes. In that moment, everything shifted. The walls trembled, and light pierced the shadows. The dark figure paused, uncertainty flickering across its features. Clara's father stood back, eyes wide, caught in the turmoil, but knowing he had to say something. "Clara, listen to your heart." "Enough with the lies," Clara snapped, channeling strength from the love of her mother that still resonated in her heart. The shadows roared, echoing Clara's determination. "Mom wanted me to fight, to break free." Suddenly, with a ferocious burst, The dark figure lunged, attempting to wrap around Clara like a shroud. But she stood tall, igniting a wave of light from deep within herself. It exploded outward, flooding the room, pushing back the darkness. "No!" the figure screamed, as the light engulfed it. The fading chaos. Horror and awe were mixed in his gaze. But amid the fading darkness, a part of her hesitated. Was this truly over? Or was it just the beginning? Clara turned to her father, their eyes locking, questions swirling like leaves in a storm. "You need to tell me the truth. What have you done?" Her father's expression shifted, a mixture of remorse and desperation. "I thought I could keep you safe. I never wanted any of this." His voice cracked as the weight of his secrets bore down on him. Clara's heart softened, even as the rage surged within. "You lied, Dad. You let darkness creep into our lives." "I know," he whispered, tears glistening in his eyes. "But you're stronger than I ever was. You've broken the cycle. You have the power to rewrite our future." And in that magical moment, as the last remnants of shadow disappeared, Clara realized she was still standing, whole and unapologetic. The room shimmered with what felt like warmth, and the air filled with the soft hum of hope. "Mom," Clara called, and a radiant light flickered in response. Her mother stepped forward, smiling with pride. "You did it, my brave girl. You faced the truth and forged your path." But an echo of something deeper lingered in the air, a question left unasked. Clara looked back at her friends and family, seen and unseen. The weight of choices hung around her like a tapestry. "What now?" she whispered, the future unfolding like a plucked string. Suddenly, the world around them began to shift again, the light growing into possibilities, and paths diverging in the midst of clarity. Clara's heart quickened. What awaited them in this new chapter? But here's where you come in. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories on this journey. Smash that like button now. Yes, right now. Let's feed the algorithm together. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know how it all ends. Your support makes all the difference, and only true fans understand that.